Hello late night coders and welcome back to this channel. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. This video is another video about ThreeJS. In the previous videos on ThreeJS I showed you how to create a scene, add camera, and also we looked at how to add objects to our scene. I also had a video where I showed you how you can add image textures on your objects and talked about some ideas on how you can take advantage of that in your websites. You can check out my channel to find the playlist that I have created for ThreeJS, or throughout this video you will also see some pop-ups that will guide you to those videos and many more. So in this video I will be using ThreeJS library to create a 3D logo like this here. The idea is basically the purpose of this video is to show you more geometry types as well as different materials that ThreeJS offers. My goal is to kind of showcase some of them while building this logo, and then you can go and explore more, and hopefully you get inspired and can come up with ideas for your own website or any other projects that you're working on. So one quick thing before we get started: if you're new to this channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button below and turn the notifications on so you're the first to know when I publish a video. So as always, the first thing we're gonna do is to go to GitHub. I'll post this repo, the link to this repo in the description of this video. First thing we wanna do is to get the code, the starter code, and you can download the zip file or clone it. This is basically the code from last video, the final code from there, and we're gonna use that as a starting point here. Once you get the code, open it in your IDE of choice. Doesn't matter what it is. I have VS Code here, and that's what I've been using. Once you do that, first thing you will do in the terminal, you'll do npm install just to make sure all the packages are installed. I already done that. Once that's done, you can do npm start to run the dev server, and once that's done, we can go to localhost 3000 and see our website that we've been building so far. So yeah, everything looks like it's working, and we don't have any errors. It's all good. It's basically the code from last video. So the goal is to add like that 3D logo up here on the top right corner, but we're gonna start full screen and then we'll make adjustments to move it over there. First thing we're gonna do, we're gonna add this logo.pog file, a partial, under our partials folder, and all we need there is just a class, a container for our ThreeJS scene, the canvas that we will have for this logo on that like right side of the screen of the view, and then we need to also add that to our index.pog file. So if you don't know what these files and folders are, I've explained all of these in like my first video. It's called the Webpack boilerplate, and I put a link to that also. You can see probably a pop-up also up top right here. You can go and watch that and you'll understand what this file is. So once you add that here, next thing you need to do is to add a file under our styles component. We're gonna add this logo.scss. We just need a quick styling for that class that we have in logo.pog file, Right now I'm having basically an entire screen height of 100 VH, actually 100 VH, and then width of 100%, and it's just a fixed position on the top and left of 0, and I've given it a z index of 5 so that it's like on top of some of the content that we have. And the next thing we need to do again, we need to add this style to our entry point for our styles, which is index.scss file. As I mentioned just a minute ago, I've explained all these things, how these folders and files work, and so you can go and check the video out to make sure that you understand everything. Once we save this, what we're gonna see is if we inspect this page, you can see that right on top of everything here we have this canvas, and it's basically covering the entire screen as we expected. Okay, so to have the logo, since we want it to be on all our pages, we will be adding that to our main index.js file under this canvas folder. Again, this app folder, I've said it before, this is where we have all our front-end JavaScript, and canvas folder is where we have all the ThreeJS related stuff there. I'll put a link to the ThreeJS playlist that I've created, and you can go and check this out. I've explained all the things that you see in here. So since we're gonna have this logo again in all the screens, I am going to add my code in this index.js, the main index.js under canvas folder. So we've talked about it before. There are like 2 or 3 main things that you need to add to your code when you're doing any ThreeJS project. First thing we need to add is our scene, and this is how you add your scene. The second thing is our camera. We are again using perspective camera, and then we are setting our camera position in like kind of like on the z-axis, which is coming out of the screen towards us, like 5 on the 5 unit from the origin. And then the third thing we need is our renderer. And again, we've talked about it before, but these are alpha, anti-alias, and this is how you do your rendering of the scene and camera. And then since we have our width and height here, we haven't defined it yet, we also need to get our canvas and basically get our canvas width and height and use that for our camera. And similar to before, we're getting that logo canvas container, and then getting the offset width and height, which is what we need to be used in our camera. The next thing we need to do is to set size for our renderer, and then pixel ratio. This is specifically like some optimization, performance optimization that we've done, and then eventually we will add the canvas as a child to this container, and that's what we are doing in this line. We are gonna create our 3D logo in a separate function, so I'm gonna define a new function here, create 3D logo, and we are going to use a new geometry If you go to ThreeJS website, you will see that there is like so many geometries. You can like just search here like geometry, and a lot of them are gonna pop up. We've talked about box geometry, sphere geometry, and like plane geometry. You can like go ahead and like explore others, but we're gonna use this as like a section of our logo, part of our logo. Again, this is just like a showcase. I'm showing these things to you guys, and you can like go ahead and play with things and come up with your own ideas. So for now, we're just gonna use this TorusKnotGeometry, and that's what it will look like, as you can see here. So we're gonna add that geometry, and then also we're gonna use a new mesh material, and that's MeshToonMaterial. If you look in ThreeJS website, again, you can like search for a different material, and a lot of them are gonna show up. This one I kind of like it because it's kind of like shiny, and I liked it, so that's what I'm using here. And I'm adding like a basic like purplish color to it. And finally, we are going to create our mesh using the geometry and material that we have, and we're adding that to our scene. Don't forget to import Three also from the Three library. Basically, this is how you do it, because we've used this Three in different places. And the last thing we need to do to be able to see things on the screen is to add to render our scene and camera, and that should happen in our update function. Again, in my first video on ThreeJS, introduction to ThreeJS, it was a two-part video. In the first part, I explained like where to add this rendering thing, and then in the second part we did some refactoring, and we realized that at the end when we are rendering our scene and camera, this update function is what we use. So right now, if I save this and I go to the website to localhost 3000, you just see a black. You see that like TorusKnotGeometry, but it's all dark. And the reason for that is because with the MeshToonMaterial, you need to also add some lighting to your scene, and that's another thing that ThreeJS provides you. By the way, I will post all these links in the description of this video, so don't worry about it. You can check it out down bottom in the description box. We're gonna add DirectionalLight to our scene, and you can read this description. It's basically your objects, some of the material, to be able to, for the visit, like for you to see it, you need to have the lighting available. And what I'm gonna do here is just add that lighting in this constructor section. As you can see, I've like kept all the general stuff here, and then for my logo I'm using a different function. You can change this configuration when however you prefer. You can have like a separate function for everything here, but that's up to you. So this is how I'm doing it. If I save this now, and the directional light is basically like sunlight or thing, or as they say in the description, like this is like the rays produced from it are all parallel, and it's like this is to simulate daylight kinda. And that's what we're doing here. You'll like I've given it like a brightish white color, and then you can position it in your scene, and don't forget, of course, to add it to your scene. And if we go back to localhost 3000, now we should see, yes, we should see that shiny geometry here. As we saw here, we have different colors, so that's good. The next thing I'm gonna do is to show you how we can actually kind of make it rotate. You see it here. In ThreeJS, there are two common ways that people normally, like developers, animate geometries in the scene. And the first way, basically what you need to do is to kind of like rotate this geometry in every frame of your rendering. So if I go back to my original index.js under app folder here, if you remember from the previous video, in this update we are requesting animation frame basically here, and that means like every frame this update function will be will be called. And if we want to rotate this geometry, we want to kind of rotate it based on like normally we use time, and once in the update method down here, the update function, and every frame of the rendering, this update function is called, and you can move your object using that. ThreeJS has a built-in clock. You can access that through three.clock, and then you can get the elapsed time basically, but by accessing the get elapsed time of that clock property. That's how you get it. You need to have it in your update function, and then once you have that, you can basically assign that to the rotation of your mesh. I'm doing a rotation around x-axis here, and what is gonna happen is that every frame this update function is gonna be called, and we'll have a new time, and then that time is gonna be assigned to that rotation. It's like constantly increasing. If we go back to our local host 3000, you can see that it's kind of rotating around the x-axis. It might be a little bit too fast. You can like multiply it by like 0.5, and that probably is gonna slow it. That is definitely going to slow it down. You can console.log this elapsed time variable here, and then see how that works. Just keep that in mind. And the second way people do it, instead of using the built-in clock in ThreeJS, they like add a time value variable, start it at 0, and then keep adding to that in the update function. Let's say just like 0.01 time unit to that, and then instead of that elapsed time, you can just use that time, the time to rotate your object. And if we do that, it's again gonna be rotating around the x-axis, and you can again adjust the speed by like changing this value here. Okay, so that's our geometry. We also want to add the text. As you remember, when I showed you, I had like L and C, like the late night coders acronym, and we are gonna do the same here. I'm gonna start with like 2 letters AB, and then at the end we can just like change that to LNC or whatever you guys want to. So again, this is just like I'm just showing you how you can use different geometry types in your website, and you will decide where and like how exactly you want to use it, if it is a good use case for your project. So first thing we're gonna add is we're gonna bring the font loader and text geometry. And if we go to ThreeJS website, search for text geometry, that's exactly what you see here. We need to have a font, and then we load that font, which will be the font used for the text, and then we have some properties for our text geometry. Previously, I guess in early 2021 at least, this was easily accessible like through 3.font loader and also 3.text geometry, but I guess right now, December 2021, they have moved it inside the examples folder. I showed you when we were creating that ThreeJS page, for example, with this orbit controls there, we grabbed the orbit controls from our examples folder, the JSM folder. We're doing the same here for font loader and text geometry. And the next thing we're gonna do, again, following the what they have here in the example, we're gonna have our font loader, and then what we're gonna do is to load this Helvetica regular typeface JSON font, which I have already copied inside the fonts folder. If you go to their example here, I believe you can go to their GitHub, and that's the same font they use here, so you can also grab that font JSON file from the example folder here. But I have also included will include it in the final code and GitHub repository, and I will share the link with you guys. So what's happening here is that we have assigned our font here, we have loaded it, and we are assigning that to our text, which is just an A and B here through this line. And then there is like a lot of properties for this text geometry. If we just let's see, we need to also add a material, obviously, because it's similar to like our other geometry. We need geometry material and then get the mesh and add it to the scene. Again, here I'm using MeshBasicMaterial with a simple, again, the color of purple, and then we'll add that geometry and material as a mesh, and then add to our scene. And if I save it, you can see here in localhost 3000 that we are seeing something in the back here, A and B. Let's move it a little bit around. First thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna scale it up, and this is, by the way, how you scale your mesh. Just you can do .scale.set and then give X, Y, and Z scaling. So now we have this big one here. Looks like we need to move it to the center of the scene, and you can do that easily using this text geometry.center. If we save it again, here we can see that our text should be now in center. And Let's rotate it a little bit. I'm rotating the text around X and Y axis, and just this is like your own taste, however you want it to be. I'm just like showing you how you can achieve that. And then let's see, so we had that MeshBasicMaterial, and this is how it is. You can see that it's okay, but we're gonna try some other materials right now. The next material I'm gonna try is MeshPhongMaterial. If we go to ThreeJS website, again search for different materials, you see this MeshPhongMaterial. This is also something you can read more about it. If I've assigned like the same color to it, and if I save here, I'm just showing you how these different materials will look like. You can see it's kind of like you have some like dark sides, so you can see like the DirectionalLight that we had. You can basically see the shadow and like the light exactly on this. If we go back to this text geometry here, you can see all these bevel stuff here, and bevel is this basically this edge here. It kind of gives it this effect on the edges. You can play with these numbers like the thickness, size, offset, segments, and like see how it looks. The next material that I'm gonna show you is MeshMatcapMaterial. So this is really good. I really like it. It's a you can read this here, and they like explain it well, but there is also a GitHub repo that I will also post a link to it, and it explained that like matcaps are complete materials including lighting and reflection, so you can add it to an object and not have any need for like lighting or reflection. So the lighting and reflection is already included in that, but you need to have a matcap like PNG or JPEG file as a texture. In the previous video I showed you how to add a texture to your object. This is exactly the same. You can grab a matcap from the same repo. Actually, if you scroll down, there's all these different matcaps that you can like click on, and you can basically like download the PNG file for that, and I believe I'm also using a matcap from the same website with like the purple color that I'm using for the rest of the website. And I have already grabbed it and copied it under the textures folder. I have this matcap here, PNG file. So you add you add your texture loader, you load that PNG file as your texture, and the next thing you're gonna do is to add that as matcap in your MeshMatcapMaterial. So that our text material now is that form. It's a form of MeshMatcapMaterial. If I save it and look at localhost 3000 again, there we go. This is how it looks like. So the lighting, everything is already included, and this is how it looks like. I'm gonna probably get rid of these bevels. Let's see. Oh, before I do that, there is another way to like assign these parameters to your material, like all the other this is like a JavaScript thing. You can define your text material and then like say text material dot matcap is equal to matcap texture. So you don't have to necessarily define all the parameters inside like these curly brackets. You can do that this way as well. That's the same thing. I just wanted to show you that's also an option. And then I also want to add a simple animation to like rotate this text geometry for like 20 seconds, for example. After we load the page, I just imported GSAP library here, and the next thing I'm gonna do is to add a little animation, rotation animation for a duration of 20, and then I'm just like rotating it around the y-axis, and that's just something you can add. It's just gonna happen for like 20 seconds after it's loaded, and then it's gonna basically stop. So as you can see, it is just gonna like do probably like 2 pies, and then that's it, or a little bit more than that, and it's gonna stop right there. This is just again, I'm giving you ideas. You can like work on it, make it better, make it fit your situation, your case, use case, and then just go from there. So as I said, I'm gonna get rid of these bevels, like these edges. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just gonna show you how it will look like without those edges, just like sharp edges. You can keep it if you like it, but like for now, I'm just gonna get rid of those and have that sharp edge. So now we have everything. This is our logo. As you remember, we had like our geometry here in the middle and our text geometry, whatever you want it to be. And now I am going to move stuff in my scene, move the geometry in my scene, so that eventually we'll have it up top here on the top right side. To do that, I first need to move my camera further back. So I'm moving it from like that 005 position to 30 30 30. Again, this part is just all something like all depends on you, however you want it. I'm just like doing the way I've had it, and I will also move both these guys, both the TorusKnotGeometry and the text geometry, up top here in my scene. And this is how you move it. I move basically the position Y to location 2.27, and do the same for my text. If we take a look again here, and now we'll see that they both have moved up here. And then I am also going to change that to LNC, just as promised, because that's our late night coder logo, and you can see it there. I keep saying that this is just like kind of like a tutorial for you guys, so you guys feel free to do whatever you want with that. The next thing we're gonna do, all we need to do is to adjust our CSS file, a styling file for the logo. Currently it's occupying the whole screen, but I'm gonna reduce the width to 160 pixels and just move it to the top right, and that's how you do it. I think right now we are good. Yeah, so our logo is up here, and you can see that we have this canvas container 160 pixels from the right. So yeah, that's it. If we move to other pages, it's gonna be there as we were expecting. So when you move between pages, it's still gonna be there because we added that to our main index.js, and that's always being called. If I go to about page also, this is always gonna be there. Now you can play with the z index of this preloader, or like the navigation transition page. If you want that transition page to be on top of the logo, so that you don't see the logo during transition, you can just adjust the z index for that transition page. Let's see if we can actually do that. I have this transition SCSS here, and the z index is 1. What's our logo is 5. I can do I don't know, let's do like 6 here and then see what happens. Just testing it to make sure we can do that. So right now we're here. If we transition, that's gonna be on top of our logo. So this is just like some styling thing that you guys can take care of it. Alright, that's it. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to hit the like button below, and again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn the notification bell on. I will be posting more and more videos about different topics on web and even mobile development. So I want you to be aware of all these. Once I publish new videos, you will get notification, and hopefully you'll enjoy as much as I'm enjoying all these things. So thanks again, guys, and I'll see you soon.